So how can you tell me a little bit about your GSD journey?
Yes. We have a son and he's 10 years old now, and he was diagnosed with glycogen storage disease type 1A at about 4 months, and we were officially confirmed at 6 months. We were stationed in Vegas at the time. That's where he was born. And he was just the happiest of little guys. But he was born with low blood sugar and couldn't maintain like his body temp, which I think that some studies have shown that, but it's nothing that would have been or sent red flags to think that it was GSD. So it was Good Friday, I won't ever forget. And he just was so not himself. Finally he got sick, and I was like, thank heavens. I was like, but you know what? He hadn't ate or drank anything all day. And so I was like, I'm taking him in. And it was about midnight, and his blood sugar was 25. And so Trey, when he does seize through a hypoglycemic episode, his blood sugar is usually 20s or lower. I'm so grateful that I was guided to take him in. And from there, they kind of thought it was spiral meningitis, and they did all these tests. And he ended up having a bowel intussusception at first, and it reoccurred, but his lab panels that were coming back had the high lactate acid ringers and other things. And if it wasn't for an attendee that had a 3-second slide about GSD, it might not have never had pointed us in that direction. Yeah, that's when we first learned about it.
When you found out like he had GSD, what emotions were running through your mind?
Uh, you know, in my life personally, no matter what comes, we're going to face it head on. So initially, not knowing the diagnosis and not knowing some of the statistics that came along with people diagnosed like in the 1980s and stuff, I was like, oh, he's just not going to be able to have a birthday cake at his first birthday. I was a little naive at that point in time. However, it was just a matter of adjusting to whatever he needed and the help that he needed. And so in the midst of all that, it just so happened that we had a connection with a prior doctor in the community at the Cleveland Clinic, and they aligned us with her, and we got orders, and we were quickly moved to the Dayton area, which is where we currently live, and got right away into the Cleveland Clinic to get him some, medical attention that he needed.
As your son continues to grow up, how do you plan on educating him about his GSD diagnosis and not being able to eat sugar like other kids?
Yeah, yeah. I was anticipating when he was older, really facing some challenges with him and what he could and couldn't have. However, it came a lot quicker at around like the age 4, where he was just, sad about, seeing people eat other things, and he couldn't. So right away, we always have told Trey is his name, that he's been brave enough, a warrior, to manage and learn how to educate and advocate for glycogen storage disease. And so we've taken that and really done that. So, he's now 10. He's checking his blood sugars on his own at school with the nurse's help. He can do some of his G-tube feeds on his own, although we're there to monitor and help. And he definitely doesn't always speak up to say he can't have something. But I will say, now that we're in a more keto friendly world, there is a lot more opportunities for him to feel included, with a little small Hershey, bar or something that was zero sugar in it, that wasn't necessarily there even when he was an infant. So he's pretty good. He still likes to push the boundaries, and every now and again we'll slide him something across the table and look the other way. But for the most part, he does really well. He did go through a stint of time where he didn't want to eat anything, and that started at 4 months, and he did oral therapy because he'd pocket his food, and he stopped basically thriving in that respect. But he's come a long way, a really long way.
What is one piece of advice you would give to other parents who are going through this similar thing?
Yeah. So one piece of advice is to really educate yourself and to surround yourself with people who understand. We have what we call the three amigos, or the three musketeers, actually, and we travel to the Cleveland Clinic together. And the boys each have their own bedroom, and we're back and forth and talking. And if there's a hypoglycemic episode or a low blood sugar in the middle of the night that happened, we're immediately reaching out. And we made those connections by attending conferences and different things that happened pre-COVID, but we just really got ourselves involved and we met some really great people. The community is strong, and I think it's definitely a mindset. It is a scary diagnosis, but when you're in metabolic control and are working closely with whatever medical staff you have, it's okay.
So as you brought up the GSD community and the conferences. Besides the Facebook community and the conferences, what else would you like to see happen within the GSD community?
So in the past, living in Ohio, we had some different forums that we would meet in Columbus, which was relatively close, even for like folks on the Midwest, East Coast side to get to by flight, drive, or however they traveled in. And so that was nice. And we did a lot of different community events. And I think that's always the neatest thing to have a room full of where the parents are sometimes the minority, where there's G tubes, being bullised and everything else, and everybody's on that synchronized schedule by the clock every 3 hours or whatever your regimen is, and just be a part of that. I think that's been huge, even for Trey. Just having friends that are like him, we don't necessarily live anywhere close to each other, but just that. So, maybe some meet and greets, or in today's day and age, Zooms. I think that would be even helpful too. I think the more, if you're a new family with a new diagnosis of this, it can be pretty scary. And if you're not with the right medical team and medical staff, you need that guidance, to know what to do and how to do it, and say, hey, it's going to be okay. You live on fatigued fumes most of the time, and you're tired. But now that he's 10, it's a little different. I'm not as tired, and he's not as tired, and he's still getting his rest and things like that.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by it's a little different now?
So the older he's gotten, I guess the less scarier it's been. That's in our personal case. I would say that, as he was growing, as his body was changing, blood sugars would be fine. And then 30 minutes later, we would be in a hypoglycemic episode, or we didn't know. That's when, and those were the scary moments. We did at one point have and receive a service dog for our son. Unfortunately, we had to put her down. She was ill herself. And that was helpful as well. So as he's gotten older, and he can actually, they're asymptomatic. However, he would come to me when he was as low as 30 and just be very lethargic, and I knew something was up. But 20 minutes later, or 20 minutes before that, he was running around. And when I did his feed before that, he was just fine too with his sugars. But now when he gets into the 50s, he knows. And so there's a good communication piece that's happening. He feels a change. And even if he's in like the hundreds and he drops to the 70s, he's feeling that difference in his body. And so that's also helpful as well.
So it sounds like as the older he got, the more he was able to identify when he was low or getting to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the infant years were definitely scary. A lot of trial and error with cornstarch or whatever regimen you're doing, or if you're doing dextrose. At the time we were using polykose, and then we switched over to dextrose. So it's just hard. And it's, that yo-yo reaction with their trying to play that catch up, if
Because
they
of
go
that,
low and then get them back. Yeah.
that
Mhm.
goes into the body, and then the
Yeah. Yeah.
hypoglycemia will do
Yeah.
that
The
spike.
big,
Glucose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest piece of advice is, make sure that you're in with a good medical team and that you're seeing them regularly. And then you also have, your primary care back wherever you are stateside. So, just lean into them. There are some good experts out there.
Is there anything else you would like to share today?
No, I just am so thankful that when we were given the diagnosis for our son, that we had people to turn to and lean into. And Dr. Lori Silanides was able to guide us into a community and pair us with people. And now Dr. Radhakrishnan and nurse practitioner Beth, they're just a phenomenal team over at the Cleveland Clinic as well. So please reach out if you have any questions regarding that.
Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.